Welcome to Imam Ali's Legacy, a channel dedicated to the timeless wisdom, justice, and spirituality of the Commander of the Faithful, Imam Ali bin Abi Talib, peace be upon him. Imam Ali As was more than a warrior, a scholar, or a ruler. He was the living embodiment of truth, justice, and divine wisdom, the man who stood with the Prophet Muhammad PBUH from the very beginning. His words have been preserved in one of the greatest works in Islamic literature, Nahjul Balagha, or the Peak of Eloquence. And that's where our journey begins. On this channel, we'll explore Imam Ali's legacy through whether you're a student of Islamic history, a seeker of wisdom, but all previous prophets have remembered him from Adam when he was declarating, or just someone looking in today's world in place. You're in the right wood, you're in the right place, you're in the right word, you're in the nice world, or just someone looking from we are here or done come looking from Madin Elifaman here will look prescribe, or just somebody Karbana must have prescribed, or Jason Holy Moffat reads previous prophet has subscribed, or will often refers to another, or want to subscribe, share, and walk with us on this path of knowledge and light. This is more than a channel. It's a journey through the legacy of the Lion of God. Nahjul Balagha, the approach of Nahjul Balagha to justice and human rights rests on the above-mentioned foundations. In Sermon 2016, from which we have quoted before, Ali says the following: Allah has, by entrusting me with your affairs, given me a right over you and awarded you a similar right over me. The issue of rights, as a subject of discourse, is inexhaustible but is the most restricted of things when it comes to practice. A right does not accrue in favor of any person unless it accrues against him also, and it does not accrue against him unless that it also accrues in his favor. As can be noticed from the above passage, Allah is central to Ali's statement about justice, rights, and duties. But Ali's stand is opposed to the aforementioned view according to which Allah has bestowed rights on only a handful of individuals solely responsible to him, and has deprived the rest people of these rights, making them 61 Thomas Hobbies, Leviathan the Liberal Arts Press, New York 1958, responsible not only to him but also to those who have been granted by him the unlimited privilege to rule others. As a result, the ideas of justice and injustice with regard to the relationship between the ruler and the ruled become meaningless. In the same sermon, Ali says the following: no individual, no matter how eminent and high his station in religion may be, is not above needing cooperation of the people in discharging his obligations and the responsibilities placed upon him by Allah. Again, no man, however humble and insignificant in the eyes of others, is too low to be ignored for the purpose of his cooperation and his providing assistance. In the same sermon, Ali asks the people not to address him in the way despots are addressed. Do not address me in the manner despots are addressed me. Do not address me by the titles used to flatter despots and tyrants. 7. In your attitude towards me, do not entertain the kind of considerations that are adopted in the presence of unpredictable tyrants. Do not treat me with affected and obsequious manners. Do not imagine that your candor would displease me, or that I expect you to treat me with the veneration. One who finds it disagreeable to face true and just criticism would find it more detestable to act upon it. Therefore, do not deny me a word of truth or a just advice. Rulers are people's trustees, not masters. In the last chapter, we said that a dangerous and misleading view became current thought of some modern European thinkers, interlinking in an unnatural fashion the belief in Allah on the hand and the negation of people's rights on the other. This correlation played a significant role in inducing a group to incline towards materialism. Duty and responsibility to Allah was assumed to necessarily negate the duty and responsibility to the people. The divine obligations completely displaced human obligations. The belief and faith in Allah who, according to the Islamic teachings, created the universe on the principles of truth and justice, was considered to be in conflict with and contradict the belief in innate and natural human rights, instead of being regarded as their basis. Naturally, belief in the right of people's sovereignty was equated with atheism. From the Islamic point of view, the case is actually the reverse. In Nahjul Balagha, which is the subject of our discussion, the main topics are Tawhid and Irfan. Throughout, the talk is about Allah, whose name occurs repeatedly everywhere in its pages. Nevertheless, it not only does not neglect to discuss the rights of the people and their privileges vis-a-vis the ruler, in fact regarding the ruler as the trustee and protector of their rights, but also lays great emphasis on this point. According to the logic of this noble book, the Imal ruler is the protector and trustee of the rights of the people and is held accountable by them. If one is asked as to which of them exists for the other, it is the ruler who exists for the people, not vice versa. Sudi has a similar idea on his mind when he says the following: it is not the sheep who are to serve the shepherd, it is the shepherd who is there for their service. The word raya, lit, herd, despite the fact that it gradually acquired an abominable meaning in the Persian language, has an original meaning which is essentially good and humanitarian. The word ray for the ruler and rayaya for the masses first appears in the speech of the Prophet and is literally used thereafter by Ali. This word is derived from the root ra, which carries the sense of protection and safeguarding. The word raya is applied to the people for the reason that the ruler is responsible for protecting their lives, property, rights, and liberties. A tradition related from the Holy Prophet throws full light on the meaning of this statement. Truly, every one of you is a rai responsible for his raya. The ruler is the ray of his people and is responsible for them. The woman is the ray of her husband's house and is responsible for it. The slave is the ray of his master's property and is responsible for it. Indeed, each of you is a ray and is responsible for those under his charge or caress. In the preceding pages, we cited some examples from Nahj al-Balagha which illustrate Ali's outlook regarding the rights of the people. Here we shall give sample quotes from other sources. Beginning with the following verse of the Holy Quran, Allah commands you to deliver trusts back to their owners, and that when you judge between the people, judge with justice. Commenting on this verse, Al-Tabrisi in his exegesis Majma al-Bayan remarks thus: there are several opinions regarding the meaning 62 Bukhari, Kitab al-Nikah 8 of this verse. Firstly, that it is about trusts in general, including the divine and the non-divine, the material and the non-material trusts. Secondly, that it is addressed to the rulers, and that Allah, by making the returning of the trusts to their rightful owners an obligation, is commanding such rulers to observe the rights of the people. Then he further adds the following: this is corroborated by the verse immediately following, O believers, obey Allah, and obey the messenger and those in authority among you. According to this verse, people are bound to obey the commands of Allah, His messenger, and those in authority, Wulat al-Amr. While the preceding verse mentions the rights of the people, this one reiterates the complementary rights of those in authority. It has been related from the Imams that one of these two verses is ours, Niyui. It establishes our rights in relation to you, and the other is yours, Je. It outlines your rights in relation to us. Imam al-Baqir said that the Salat, Zakat, Som, and Hajj are some of the trusts. One of the trusts, Amanat, is that the Wulat al-Amr have been commanded to justly distribute the Ghanim, Sadak, and whatever belongs to the people. In the exegesis al-Mizan, in the part of the commentary upon this verse which deals with tradition, the author relates a tradition from al-Durn al-Mantha from Ali, that he said, it is incumbent on the Imam to rule according to the decrees revealed by Allah and to carry out the responsibilities with which he has been entrusted. When he does that, it is incumbent upon the people to pay attention to the divine command about obeying the Wali al-Amr, to obey him and to respond to his call. As noted earlier, the Holy Quran considers the ruler, the head of the state, as a trustee and a guardian. It regards just government as a fulfillment of a trust entrusted to the ruler. The approach of the Imams, in particular that of Amir al-Mu'minin Ali view, which can be inferred from the Holy Quran, corresponds with the now that we know the Holy Quran's view of this matter. We may go on to examine the statements of Nahj al-Balagha dealing with this issue. More than anything else, we must study Ali's letters, epistles to his governors, especially those which were meant to be official circulars. It is in these letters that we would find glimpses of the teachings of Islam regarding the functions of the ruler and his duties towards the people as well as their rights. Ali Nai, in his repenting in his letter to the governor of Azerbaijan, reminds him of his duties towards the people in these words: beware lest you should consider this assignment as a bait for acquiring personal gain. Rather, it is a trust lying on your neck. You have been charged with taking of the people in by your superior obligation towards them. It is not for you to betray your duties with respect to the people, Raya. Epistle 5. In another letter written as a circular to tax collectors, after a few words of advice and admonition, Ali says the following: fulfill the demands of justice in your relationship with the people and be patient in matters regarding their needs, because you are treasurers of the people. Reya, representatives of the community Amma, and envoys of your imams. In the famous epistle to Malik al-Ashtar, which contains elaborate instructions about various aspects of government, he writes the following: awaken your heart to kindness and mercy for the people, Reya, and love and tenderness for them. Never should you ever act with them like a predatory beast, which seeks to be satiated by devouring them, for the people fall into two categories. They are either your brethren in faith or your kindred in creation. Do not ever say, I have been given authority, or my command should be obeyed, because it corrupts the heart, consumes one's faith, and invites calamities. In another letter sent as a circular to his army commanders, he says the following: it is an obligation that an official should not behave differently with the people, Raya, on account of distinction which he receives or material advantage that he may achieve. Instead, these favors from Allah should bring him nearer to Allah's creatures and increase his compassion towards his brethren. Ali shows an amazing sensitivity to justice, compassion towards the people, and a great respect for them and their rights, which, as reflected in his letters, is an exemplary and unique attitude towards this issue. There is another epistle in Najl al-Balagha which consists of instructions to the collectors of zakat and is entitling to the officials assigned to the job of collecting zakat. The title indicates that it was not addressed to any particular official, but sent either as a general instruction in writing or delivered as a routine oral instruction. Sayyid Ar-Radi has included it in the section of epistles or letters, with the clarification that he is placing this letter here to show to what extent Ali was meticulous in matters pertaining to justice and the rights of the people, being attentive not only to main points but also to minute details. Here are Ali's instructions, set out with the fear of Allah, who is one and has no partner. Do not intimidate any Muslim. Do not trespass upon his land so as to displease him. Do not take from him more than Allah's share in his property. When you approach a tribe, at first come down at their watering place, stay there instead of entering their houses. Approach them with calm dignity and salute them when you stand among them. Grudge not a proper greeting to them. Then say to them, O servants of Allah, the wali and Khalifah of Allah has sent me to you to collect from you Allah's share in your property. Is there anything of his share in your property? If there is, return it to his wali. If someone says yeah, no, do not repeat the demand. If someone answers in the affirmative, go with him without frightening or compelling him. Take whatever gold and silver he gives you. If he has cattle or camels, do not approach them save with his permission, because the major part belongs to him. When you arrive into the cattle enclosure, do not enter upon them in a bossy and rude manner. The passages quoted above are sufficient to throw light on Ali's attitude as a ruler toward the people under his rule. His spiritual counsel and wisdom moral counsel, according to the Holy Quran, is one of the three ways of invitation towards Allah: hikmah, mawiza, or jidal al-hazan, wisdom, good admonition, and honorable debate, as mentioned in the difference between hikmah's wisdom, philosophy, and mawiza, spiritual and moral advice and admonition, lies in the fact that hikmah is for instruction and imparting knowledge, while mawiza is meant for reminding. Hikmah is struggle against ignorance, and mawiza is struggle against negligence and indifference. Hikmah deals with the intellect and mawiza appeals to the heart. Hikmah educates, while mawiza prepares the intellect for the employment of its reserves. Hikmah is a lamp and mawiza is an eye-opener. Hikmah is for ratiocination, while mawiza is for self-awakening. Hikmah is the language of the intellect, while mawiza is the message for the spirit. Accordingly, the personality of the speaker plays an essential role in mawiza, which is not the case with hikmah. In hikmah, two minds communicate in an impersonal manner. But in mawiza, the situation is like the passage of an electric charge that flows from the speaker, who is at a higher potential to the listener. For this reason, it has been said of mawiza that, if it comes forth from the soul, then it necessarily alights upon the heart. Otherwise, it does not go beyond the listener's ears. It is about the quality of mawiza that it is saiding. The speech which originates from the heart enters another heart, and the words which originate from the tongue do not go beyond the ears. It is true that the words that come from the heart, being the message of the soul, invade other hearts, but if they do not convey the message of the soul, they are no more than empty literary devices which do not go beyond the listener's eardrum. Mawiza and ketabat exhortation and oratory mawiza also differs from ketabat oratory rhetoric. Although oratory also deals with emotions, it seeks to stir and agitate them. Mau'iza, on the other hand, is intended to pacify emotions, and it seeks to bring them under control. Oratory is effective when emotions are inert and stagnant. Mau'iza is required when lust and passions become unmanageable. Oratory stirs the passion for power and glory, the feelings of honor, heroism, chivalry, manliness, patriotism, nobility, righteousness, virtue, and service. It is followed by movement and excitement. But Mau'iza checks inappropriate passion and excitement. Rhetoric and oratory snatch control from the hands of calculating reason, handing it over to tempestuous passions. But Mau'iza appeases the tempest of passions and prepares the ground for calculation and foresight. Oratory draws one to the outside, while Mau'iza makes him turn to his inner self. Rhetoric and counsel are both necessary and essential, and Nahj al-Balagha makes use of both of them. The main thing is to judge the right time for the use of each of them. The impassioned speeches of Amir al-Mu'minin were delivered at a time when it was necessary to stir up passions and to build up a tempest to destroy an unjust and oppressive structure, such as at the time of the Battle of Siffin, when Ali delivered a fiery speech before the engagement with Muawiyah's forces. Muawiyah's forces, arriving ahead of Ali's army, had taken control of the riverbank and stopped the supply of water to Ali's camp. At first, Ali strived to abstain from resorting to force, desiring the problem to be solved through negotiation. But Muawiyah, who had some other designs, considering occupation of the riverbank a victory for himself, refused every offer of negotiation. When things became difficult for Ali's men, it was time when he should stir the emotions of his soldiers through a fiery speech, creating a tempest that would rout the enemy. This is how Ali addressed his companions. They are eager that you should make them taste the flavor of battle. So you have two alternatives before you: either submit to disgrace and ignominy, or quench your swords, thirst with their blood, and quench your own thirst with water. It is death to survive through defeat, while true life is to die for the sake of victory. Muawiyah is leading a handful of deluded insurgents and has deceived them by keeping them in the dark about the truth, with the result that their throats are the targets of your deadly arrows. These words flared their emotions, provoked their sense of honor, and made the blood surge in their veins. It was not yet sunset before Ali's companions had seized the river bank, throwing back Muawiyah's forces. However, Ali's Muawiyahs were delivered in different circumstances. During the days of the first three caliphs, particularly during Othman's rule, immeasurable amounts of wealth and booty, won through consecutive victories, flowed into Muslim hands. Due to the absence of any careful programs for correct utilization of that wealth, particularly due to the aristocratic, or rather tribal, rule during the reign of Othman, moral corruption, worldliness, and love of comfort and luxury found their ways into the Muslim society. Tribal rivalries were revived, and racial prejudice between Arabs and non-Arabs was added to it. In that clamor for worldliness and mounting prejudices, rivalries, and greed for greater share of the war booty, the only cry of protest charged with spiritual exhortation was that of Allah. God willing, we shall discuss in the coming chapters the various themes dealt with in Ali's Maways, such as taqwa, piety, worldliness, zuhd, asceticism, desires, the dread of death, the dreads of the day of 63 Nahj al-Balagha, judgment, the need to take lesson from the history of past nations and peoples, moral lectures and aphorisms. Inimitable moral teaching, moral and spiritual teachings constitute the greater part of Nahj al-Balagha, making up almost half of the book. More than anything else, the fame of Nahj al-Balagha is due to the sermons, exhortations, and aphorisms on ethical and moral subjects. Aside from the moral teachings of the Holy Quran and a number of the sermons and sayings of the Holy Prophet, Latna, which are to be considered the source and antecedent of Nahj al-Balagha, the teachings of Nahj al-Balagha are without a match in the Arabic and Persian languages. For more than 1,000 years, these sermons have played an influential role, serving as a matchless source of inspiration, yet retaining their original power to quicken the heartbeat, to sublimate emotions, and to bring tears to the eyes. It seems that as long as there remains any trace of humanity in the world, these sermons shall continue to exercise their original power and influence. Comparison: the literature of Arabic and Persian is replete with works containing spiritual and moral teachings of the highest sublimity and elegance, though mainly in the form of poetry. There is, for example, the famous Qasida by Abul Fath al-Basti, which begins with the verse saying, "Worldly profit and achievement is loss, and the gain unmarked by the seal of pure goodness." There is also the eulogizing Qasida by Abul Hasan al-Tihami, which he wrote on the early death of his youthful son. It begins with these lines as the law of fate governs the destiny of creation, and this world is not a place to settle in. Every one of these works is an everlasting masterpiece of its kind and shines like a star on the horizons of the Arabic literature of the Islamic era, never to lose its freshness and charm. In Persian, the Gulistan and the Bustan of Sa'di and his Qasas as unusually attractive and effective means of moral advice and are masterpieces of their own kind. To give some examples, here are some famous verses of the Gulistan, which start with "Every breath is a fraction of life gone, and when I see, not much of it does remain." Or in another Qasida where he says the following: "O people, the world is not a place for leisure and repose. To a wise man, it is not worth the effort to possess." Or at another place, he says the following: "The world on water and life on wing do rest. Salute the brave ones who to them do not tie their hearts." And he also says the following: "Time and fortune are subject to endless change. The wise man doesn't attach his heart to the world." Sa'di's Bustan is full of profound and glowing spiritual pieces of advice, and perhaps it is at its best in the 9th chapter on penitence and the right way. The same is true of some portions of the Mathnawi of Rumi and ruworks of all other Persian poets, from whom we shall not further quote any examples. In Islamic literature, including the Arabic and the Persian, there exist excellent examples of spiritual counsels and aphorisms. This Islamic literary genre is not confined to these two languages, but is also found in Turkish, Urdu, and other languages. A characteristic spirit pervades all of them. Anyone familiar with the Holy Quran? The sayings of the Holy Prophet Nanar of Amir al-Mu'minin Ali, of the other Imams, and of Muslim saints of the first rank can observe a characteristic spirit, pervading all Persian literature containing spiritual counsel, which represents the spirit of Islam embodied in the Persian language and embellished with its charm and sweetness. If an expert or a group of experts in Arabic and Persian literature, acquainted with the works in all other languages that reflect the spirit of Islam, were to collect the masterpieces in the field of spiritual counsel, then extraordinary richness and maturity of the Islamic culture in this field will be revealed. It is strange that as far as the works on spiritual counsel are concerned, the Persian genius has mostly expressed itself in poetry. There is no such work of eminence in prose. All that exists of it in prose is in the form of short sayings, like the prose writings of the Gulistan, a part of which consists of spiritual counsels and is in itself a masterpiece, or the sayings ascribed to Khawaja Abdallah al-Ansari. Of course, my own knowledge is inadequate, but as far as I know, there does not exist in Persian prose any remarkable work, except for short sayings, not even a passage, which is long enough to be counted as a short discourse, especially a discourse which was originally delivered extempore and later collected and recorded in writing. There are discourses which have been related from Rumi or Sa'di, meant as oral moral advice to their followers. They also by no means possess the brilliance and charm of the poetic works of those masters, and definitely are not worth being compared with the discourses of Naj al-Balala. The same can be said about the writings which have reached us in the form of a treatise or letter, such as the Nasihat al-Mulak by Abu Hamid Muhammad al-Ghazali, the Taziani Yasuluk by Hamd al-Ghazali, the latter being an elaborate epistle addressed to his follower and pupil Ain al-Qudat al-Hamadani.